So it looks like we could probably put a fork in it. Maybe this might be the end of the aesthetic of the Michael Bay universe of Transformer movies. A lot has transpired over the past 24 hours. We pretty much got, I'll say, 2.5 new Bumblebee trailers.
Mm-hmm.
And these 2 Bumblebee trailers really shook up the Transformer fandom and even the casual Transformer fandom world. A lot of people got very excited about these trailers. And what we saw really changed a lot of people's opinions now going into this Bumblebee movie. And it also kind of makes up for almost the 10 plus years that we've had of Michael Bay stuff that really was just confusing in terms of, you know, like why couldn't we have this from the beginning? You know? Now I understand the politics of it all, and a lot of times designers and creators, they want to get paid, so they do something that's different from the norm, combined with the argument that I've always had in the past about American mecha.
Mm-hmm.
And how that aesthetic is vastly different than Japanese mecha, which is what we're more familiar with the Transformers that we know and love. What am I getting at here? Well, these new Bumblebee trailers, despite the fact that it showed us a lot of new stuff in terms of the character of John Cena and where he plays in all of this, and how Haley's character finds Bumblebee and stuff like that, the big thing that stuck out that really just caught everyone's attention was the stuff that wasn't human related, specifically the Transformer characters, and a gobble of scenes that clearly are based from Cybertron. Probably is going to be a flashback. See, my only fear is all this stuff that we're about to talk about. My only fear is that this will be like a 3-minute flashback out of the 2-hour movie of just pure fan wank. But be that as it may, at least it shows us where the artistic direction might be for the future of these movies if they stay true to this. So let's just dive into it.
Yeah.
So Bumblebee pretty much shows a hologram of what is, you know, his mission from Optimus Prime, and it looks like this is going to be a flashback to Cybertron, what's going on in the beginning of the war and blah blah blah. And we get a whole bunch of G1 design inspired characters shown, even Optimus Prime himself.
Which is pretty crazy. And
what's even more crazy about this is just it again revisits the idea that maybe this is a reboot.
Yeah, exactly. Which is it's been here and there. I think we heard it with John Cena saying it.
John Cena was the one that
said
was
it was a reboot, basically.
Said it was a reboot, and then here's Hasbro with I think is Goldberg or whatever his name is from Hasbro saying like Michael Golden, sorry, saying like, oh, it's, you know, it's a soft reboot, or, you know, it's still in the same universe, but soft reboots are like it's in the same universe, it doesn't erase what happened before, but it's something that people could jump in from this point and not really have to know the past, but there's still a continuity there, where, you know, in this case, I you know, the fact that Starscream's in this and Shockwave and the aesthetic that they possess, and Optimus Prime and the aesthetic that they possess, really pretty much says this is a straight up 100% hard reboot. And just the characters that are featured, I mean, we'll go with a G1 Optimus Prime, the one that with the, you know, the design that we've always wanted since day one. And I mean, even your love of the Evasion Optimus Prime toy from Age of Extinction, you know, it stems from that more Generation 1 aesthetic.
Again, like I said, like the reason I like it is not just because it looks like the G1. It's just the fact that they managed to put the G1 alt mode with the Michael Bay aesthetic. I thought that was just impressive as all hell. Like, you know,
well, this still at the end of the day is really a marriage of the two, but just leaning more towards that Generation 1 Fleero Deary, you know, art style. I mean, again, then we're shown, again, a Soundwave that is Generation 1 Soundwave.
Yeah,
tape
exactly.
Cassette, you know, tape cassette door opens, Ravage pops out, attacks Optimus Prime, knocks Ravage back. You know, this ain't your Ravage from Revenge of the Fallen, the mono-eyed kitty that gets, you know,
filleted.
I guess like, filleted is a better word. Filleted by Bumblebee. This is not the Soundwave satellite dish, or alternatively the Mercedes-Benz Soundwave.
Mm-hmm.
This is G1 Soundwave. This is, I mean, I swear when I first saw these clips, like when I first saw the trailer, I saw it, someone posted it on Facebook, and I thought that someone just took the Bumblebee movie trailer and was intersplicing like video game
Yeah,
clips
like just fake stuff, you know?
Yeah, like fake stuff that I see all the time, because I was like, no, this can't be happening. You know, like, and then you see a Shockwave, again, G1 Shockwave, not Dark of the Moon Shockwave, you know, with his unique aesthetic. And I mean, Dark of the Moon Shockwave, when you look at him, that's clearly like his Cybertronian form.
Yeah.
You know, like he didn't like adopt something when he came to Earth. That's his Cybertronian form with his little drill worm and all of that, and his tank mode. This one, it's so that even, you know, because the argument that people could say, well, these are their Cybertronian forms, and that's why they look G1. But there's tons of characters, specifically on the Decepticon side, that just came to Earth and didn't adopt anything. They just came and started messing stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then we get to like the people next to Shockwave, and here's where it's like some of the guessing games that some people are asking me on Twitter, well, who do you think it is? And I kind of like remain silent to save this for the podcast. But of course we have the Starscream, you know, up front and center, although some people could argue that's the Blitzwing, but I mean, I'm going to say it's Starscream. The Purple Jet on the other side, I have a few things. Number one, like you said it could be Skywarp, but I was like, it could be Slipstream, could be a G2 Ramjet minus the Conehead, could be G1 Dreadwin. That's another character that, like, you know, they have the name licensed right now. They recently did the Titan's Return toy. Excuse me, Power of the Primes toy.
Right.
You know, like there's, you know, that's another one where the name is kicking around. You know, so it could be one of those. And then we have a green Conehead, and I mean, it could be a green Dirge or Ramjet.
I mean, yeah.
It could be a Conehead Acid Storm,
True.
or there actually was technically a green Conehead in Armada. Armada had the Coneheads, and Thrust was green instead of white, so it could be Thrust. I mean, but or this just could be background characters. But the point is that they're putting stuff out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's more Autobots and Decepticons of Generation 1 aesthetic in the background. And same thing in this trailer.
This kind of feels like maybe Hasbro's kind of like, you know, we need to pull everything in kind of bit. You know, we have this evergreen thing going on. We have Cyberverse going on, and we kind of want to be, you know, they might actually be trying to have everything telling the same-ish story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the next toy line is basically Battle for Cybertron again, right?
Well,
at least that's the naming convention they're using.
Yeah, and all the posters advertising Siege show this, like, you know, this arc that's launching into space, you know, signifying like the beginning of everything all over again. So you have like this Bumblebee movie that, you know, is tied to the beginning. You have this new Transformer Cyberverse series that's starting from the beginning, you know, and then we have this Siege toy line that's starting from the beginning. So you are correct. Like there's kind of this like,
and then also they're kind of pulling back the comic, you know.
Oh yeah, and
that
the
as
comic,
well.
yeah,
like
right.
It just feels like
and
on all fronts are okay. We have to kind of make this a little bit more cohesive, so if someone jumps in at any point, everyone can kind of make sense of everything, you know.
Well, you know what? June 2007. You know, it was 10 plus years ago, 11 years ago, and it's been 10 years since then. That in 2007, the IDW books kind of really started their momentum with their continuity. We had all our little series from animated to Prime, and then the ongoing Prime continuity with RID 2.0. Again, in that 10-year span, just everything that's been going on up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's absolute insanity that, you know, we would be lingering after these 10 years in that same stuff. It's time to move forward and do something fresh. It's been 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, I had this conversation with someone at one of the past toy shows where I was like, you know, there's kids, you know, who are 8 years old when they saw the 2007 movie, and they could legally drink and take drugs now, you know, like, you know, and get a driver's license. Like it's been a long while. So this is a fresh take with a fresh, you know, coat of paint on all fronts. And I guess probably, and again, this stems from what you said, I think this also adds to the fact that you have this new Cyberverse series, which is very Generation 1 in aesthetic. And you have now, like, I mean, you look at, the best example is you look at Cyberverse, and you have characters like G1 Slipstream, G1 Slipstream, animated Slipstream, but a Swiftstream, a Seeker, G1 Starscream.
Yeah.
You have the Shockwave, and yet here's all these same characters also in this trailer. You know what I mean? Like everything's meshing up. Heck, if you want to look at that green Conehead in the background, I mean, there's even an Acid Storm in the Cyberverse series. You know, now granted he's not a Conehead, but the point is that like everything's meshing up. And same thing, there's a Soundwave in Cyberverse. We just saw it in episode 3. So I think that they're really trying to match everything up with their IPs, and I think maybe they got, maybe they got a little confused in the past. They didn't expect this 2007 movie to become the megalith that it became today, and especially with Revenge of the Fallen, despite, your opinions on how good a movie it is, it did make a lot of money and it got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
So, and they kind of screwed up in a lot of ways. Here's Devastator, but it wasn't really Devastator, and we kind of screwed up introducing him, and we kind of killed him off. And then what was happening in the shows at the time? Well, there was no Devastator, there was. So I think they really want to now get every, like, it's, I know when Aaron Archer was working at Hasbro, he said how they were constantly looking at what Marvel was doing, and they were always inspired by that. And it was, and you got to give Marvel credit, because when you watch, that really good Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes and all that stuff, and then you go watch the movie, it's the same cast of characters. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like there's almost
now it's from what I remember from their commentary, that was super. That was the whole point of the show, was to kind of match up with what's going on in the movie, but then sadly the show kind of, I wouldn't say got ahead of it, but like I felt like the show could have stuck around and introduced different characters, different bad guys and stuff like that the Marvel movies probably wouldn't even have gotten around to, and just kind of build that up.
It suffered the same fate that animated did, which is it came out before. Like, animated came out before Revenge of the Fallen, and this Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon came out before the Avengers movie came out.
Yeah.
When both Revenge of the Fallen came out and the Avengers movie, both Marvel and Hasbro kind of went, wow, we really got something here, and then kind of pulled the plug on whatever was going on and then went with their own thing. In the case of Avengers, they did a new series called... I want to call it United They Stand. No, something like that. It was just a new Avengers cartoon that
Avengers
was more
Assemble or something.
Yeah,
like
Avengers
that.
Assemble. That's what it is. Correct. Yeah, that's correct.
And it made it way more like the movies.
Yeah,
but it was definitely branded more towards, well, I want to say kids, but even the other show was branded towards kids. But they were in the more same vein as we want to be towards kids, but still not talk down to them, so like be more like the DC animated universe and the X-Men stuff that came out in the 90s and all that kind of stuff, Gargoyles and all that. Like they were kind of carry on that tradition, but the newer show seems to be more, hey, look at them, they're fighting and for no reason and blah blah blah.
That's why. So Hasbro, they're pretty much seeing how Marvel was always on key with this. They were always making sure that whatever was happening on TV was also reflecting on what was going on. And I'm not saying continuity-wise. I'm just saying intellectual property-wise.
Okay.
Like people are watching the movies and going, wow, I like Black Panther, and there's something Black Panther on TV to watch. It's not like you're going to see Black Panther in theaters, and then when you go back to watch TV, it's like, yeah, we know you like Black Panther, but instead we're going to give you Pink Panther.
Yeah, exactly. Because even now they're doing, was it Black Panther's Quest is the new cartoon show they're coming out with?
Well, there you go.
So they're actually trying to like, okay, we got something here. Let's keep going with it.
So where that was the problem that happened with the original past 10 years of Transformer movies is you would have like, oh, here's Drift and Age of Extinction. Yeah, okay, the comics is one thing, but I mean, Drift came from the comics.
Yeah.
But it's like Drift really wasn't too much of a thing. Yeah, he was in the Revenge of the Robots in Disguise 2.0 series, but not in a major way, not really reflecting how he was in the movie. There was always these huge separations.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that probably was ever consistent was just kind of the way Bumblebee was handled. After those movies, outside of, again, animated and getting cut off animated, Bumblebee was going to be a muscle car, probably going to beep and boop, probably not going to have his voice, but everything else was kind of all over the place. They didn't have one set path and goal of how they were going to do things. Everything was all over the place.
Yeah, and you have people coming in that are like, well, how come Bumblebee's talking? He's supposed to beep and boop, and Ratchet didn't fix his audio box and blah 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 blah. It's like, no, he normally talked. Yeah, but in the movies, it's like, like you have two types of people clashing at that point.
Well, that's when I get back to intellectual property, which is just, you have certain characters that you've spent all these years building up. It's like, imagine if you have a Soundwave character and he just doesn't have his audio box anymore, or he talks with a snake kind of at the end. Like, you're changing what, all these years of creating a character. It's like having She-Hulk, but from now on she's going to be gray. Like, just that's going to be
We're going to go old school, people. Oh, cool, you're going to bring back Gray Hulk for Bruce Banner style. No. She-Hulk's gray.
But that's
Why?
just it. So it's just, you have to kind of stick to that stuff, and that's the reality is that you could argue, but if change is good because it's stuff gets old over time. That is true, but when you're talking about, and let's be real here, like these Marvel movies, these Transformer movies, they're going to go on forever. They're not going to stop. Even if they get dry, they might take a 2-year, 3-year break, but then they'll come back with another trilogy or another bunch of movies. And the reality is the best way to go about that is to make sure that you keep those characters, the way that they always were, because people revisit those brands, and the worst thing you could ever do is people revisiting a brand and them going, this is not how I remember it. And you could lose people very easily that way. So this is, all of this is so much an answer to just what's going on in those boardrooms and them really reevaluating
and
how they're going to.
Also, something else I wanted to bring up was something that this from I know a lot of people were saying, like, oh, you get to hear Optimus Prime's voice in this, and that also reminds me of what happened at Comic-Con this year, where Peter Cullen made it to the panel for Bumblebee and then asked if Optimus Prime would be making an appearance in the movie, or when is Optimus Prime getting his own movie, blah blah blah. And like, it almost made it seem like, wait, he's not in this movie in some way, shape, or form, but at least, like, okay, now we know he is. But it's not going to be a full-on Optimus Prime is there helping out Bumblebee. It's just going to be, he's there and he's still a part of that. I hope he's still a part of the continuity. You know what I mean?
No, well, again, it shows that what's going on here is there's comparisons to Cyberverse. This is a Bumblebee on Earth. There's Decepticons coming after him, and he has some memories and or message from Optimus with the wards. There's a lot of comparisons going on here with the Cyberverse series.
Yep.
And there's the flashbacks in the backgrounds that are fleshing out all the characters that can't be present on Earth here for those scenes. And look, like I said, the biggest thing we could take away from this is that if there is a lot of positive feedback from the fans saying we love how these characters look here, they could keep that moving forward. And whatever the next movie is, whatever it'll be, the next Transformer movie, they'll keep that aesthetic. They'll keep that look.
And also, one other thing I want to point out too is that, remember, we were talking about this movie and who's directing it. It's if I remember right, oh boy, it's
Travis Knight.
Travis Knight. So remember, his background is animation. He did all the Kubo and the Two Strings. He did Coraline. He did like he worked on Coraline, Paranorman. His background is animation. So it could be that he was like, we need to bring back. He could have been the one spearheading that. We need to bring back these old designs to this franchise because that's what people are constantly looking for and hoping to see and hoping to get. So I mean, he could be the one championing this whole change completely. It could be a bit of Hasbro wants to be like, you know what? We have these designs that are known by everybody. We have a whole evergreen line that, tries to keep everything in this same order kind of thing. We should be using them. And probably that they managed to get a director that's in animation as well. And again, like, I feel like everyone should always try to aspire to do more. So I mean, like, you do a lot in animation, at some point you should be tapped to do live action, provided that you're really good, like you have a really good eye for animating. Like for an example, Brad Bird with The Incredibles, the guy that did The Incredibles, he went on to do, like, Tom Cruise tapped him to do one of the Mission Impossible movies. So the one where he's climbing up the giant tower, that's Brad Bird doing that. So I mean, like, I would hope that kind of stuff would bring more people that have, like, an eye for, like, a real, like, just really amazing action scenes and good set pieces and stuff like that, and just give him a chance to do that. And the fact that Travis Knight has given the Transformers franchise, a reboot, two, a franchise that's worth a ton of money.
Tons of money.
Even at its worst, even when the movies are at its worst, they make money. So this is a lot of faith going into this for this director. So I'm very excited for this. I'm very renewed hope for this. You know what I mean?
And it also ties into like, we have coming up as of this recording, we also have the 86 movie that's going to be returning to theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And it would not surprise me if Hasbro was not at least paying attention a little bit to those pre-ticket sales.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The interest in that original movie. What it all boils down to ultimately in the end is that I think that, and I'm glad they're doing this.
They're getting their ducks in a row. They're like, hey,
yeah.
Remember how they look here? Well, they look like this here, and they look like this there, and there,
exactly.
and there.
It's like, imagine if like you took me or you, like we never saw any of the Bay movies, and then we had to pick out of a lineup of characters, which one do you think is Soundwave? You would have never guessed, probably. You wouldn't have looked at the Mercedes-Benz and go, I guess that kind of looks like Soundwave, but there's a lot of other movie toys and characters that could potentially be a Soundwave. Look at the way, if you would have showed me Barricade and the way that, the toy, specifically with the way Frenzy comes out of his chest, that would have said to me, there's your Soundwave right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe it's Blackout, because he kind of has that, that speaker above his head there, and he shoots that Scorponok out of his butt. Maybe he's Soundwave, but no, it's actually that Mercedes-Benz, or that satellite dish where the missile that's kind of shaped like Ravage, but it's not quite unless you look at the detail on it. So it's I think that it's the first time in a while we could actually look at these characters. Like, we're able to look at screenshots. We're able to look at screenshots of characters without knowing their names, but know who they are. That's Bumblebee. That's Starscream. That's, Purple Jet Guy. He could be one of these three dudes. And we're not, and it's, they're not going to surprise us, actually, no, it's not any of those. That's supposed to be Jazz. It's like, what? Because that's kind of what was going on for the longest time. Now, granted, there was certain aesthetic cues that existed previously with those, those Michael Bay movies. Yeah, there was an ambulance. It probably was going to be Ratchet and stuff like that. But in general, a lot of those characters, whenever they were in name, they were in name only. Case in point, like something like Ironhide, or Sideswipe. There really wasn't a strong attempt. Like now, if like Ironhide was in this, he would be some kind of red van or red truck. He would probably have something that's a more traditional Generation 1 looking head to his, his mohawky kind of head that he had originally. It seems like now, whenever these characters are going to appear, there's going to be some kind of self-conscious effort to keep it true, because this is what's going on now. This is, it's again, everything that Animated did. Animated was a love letter to Generation 1 and those other old continuities, and tried to keep true to that. Let's try to keep that true moving forward with everything else, including our movies, which are our flagship. The movies get the most eyeballs. They get the most attention worldwide. They make us the most money. Maybe not so much in the toy sales recently, which is probably, again, another thing that probably steered all of this, is probably for the first time in a while, 2007 to about 2010, the best-selling toy lines for Transformers were the movie toy lines, and then that shifted over to Generations. And then that started telling Hasbro, look who's the buying power.
Yeah.
So they finally...
And that goes to their... I remember what you were saying before with HasCon, where they're talking about we're trying to do family stuff. And what that most likely means is not necessarily going through the kids to your wallet, is going through the adults now who were the kids, and now they're going through the adults to go through get to the kids. You know what I mean?
Well, that was actually, it's funny because before we had Cyberverse, before we had all of that, I think the first, outside of obviously Generations, the first line that really made a strong attempt to have a G1 Optimus Prime toy and everything to market to adults and show was the Rescue Bots line.
Yeah.
The Rescue Bots line, if you look at Rescue Bots Optimus Prime, which came out in 2010, we're talking Dark of the Moon time, he looked like Generation 1 Optimus Prime, flat-nosed truck, the whole works. And he was supposed to represent Transformers Prime Optimus Prime in that same continuity, which looked nothing like that. So there was clearly an attempt all the way back then with Rescue Bots to cater to, hey, this is the play school level of toys. That means that pretty much it's 100% the parents are buying these. The kids aren't, taking their lunch money to get this. This is the parents making those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So let's cater to those parents and make sure it's like, hey, remember Optimus Prime? Here's how he used to look and stuff. And so, it dates back that far. But this trailer is giving me a lot of hope. I hope this isn't, like a bad relationship where, I feel... Again,
it is a bad relationship. We keep coming back, but now we actually have way more hope than we really should be. But
that's how it was with the past couple of movies, where it was always like, "Don't worry, baby, I've changed," and I go, "Okay, I believe you," and then I go back into it, and no, you didn't change. It's still the same. It's still the same garbage.
It's still the same thing, but now it's about the Knights of the Round Table for some reason.
It's like all you did was you said like this instead of that, and it's just so. Hopefully, we're not gonna I'm not gonna get burned again, and I really hope that we're gonna have some kind of a lot of faith here, a lot of faith that it's a different director, it's a different cast of characters, it's different actors,
different designs.
It's different designs. The only, if I had to say anything, the only complaint I have is. And that stems all the way how I almost thought this trailer was fake, is that we have all these very hardcore Generation 1 looking characters, but we still have Bumblebee, Shatter, and Dropkick that still suffer from that aesthetic that was the other Bay movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, imagine putting Dropkick or Shatter next to Shockwave or Optimus Prime in those scenes.
Technically, I think, what's the red one's name?
Shatter.
I think Shatter's right behind Shockwave in that scene where he's pointing ahead, and all the Seekers are flying off. All the Terra,
you kind of see Shatter a little bit on the left.
Yeah, all the Terra. What are they called again?
Terror jets.
The Terror jets fly off. So I think it's there technically.
But again, I really hope that moving forward with the next movies, they're going to look at this and they go, this is what we're going to roll with. This is what we're going to do. People are really responding to this. And again, think about the domino effect of it. You make really good designs in these movies, then you get those Generations collectors that go, hey, I want to own these movie toys. You know what I mean? I actually want to buy these movie toys. I mean, how many movie toys do you own from the last night, Wendell?
One. I finally got my Cogman, and that was fairly recently.
Now,
that was fairly recent.
And again, and Cogman was a good toy, a good design, and was the standout character of the movie. Imagine if every character in the movie was like that. That would grease the wheels for individuals that they would want to buy those other characters and go, wow, that character was really cool. It's no surprise that the best-selling toys of any movie line are the ones that appear in the movies. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have one or two, scout toys that are really, that are breakouts and they're really good and stuff, but they don't sell. Like, I guarantee more skids and mud flaps sold than they did, any scout toy from Revenge of the Fallen. But
which is
that
very sad.
It's sad, but it's true. But the reality is that those characters appearing on screen have a huge influence on sales. And if those characters on top of appearing on screen are also enjoyable characters that people like, including the more, questionable, the more, pessimistic adult, then you could really rank in some cash, Hasbro. And that's the reality.
Rake it in, bring it in.
Yeah. You could really, really get that money. And it's if people are going to enjoy this movie, if they're really going to like the characters of Dropkick and Shatter, if you make some kind of attempt to maybe even do some of those background G1 looking characters and just I don't know, make something simple of that, there's money to be made from those fans that have really just been Generations collectors, that really have just been masterpiece collectors, or they've really just stuck to one thing and avoided mainline in general. I do YouTube reviews. I get instant feedback anytime I review any kind of toy that's brand new, and the one thing I always see is when something is shit, people say it's shit. You know what I mean? They literally let you know this is garbage.
Yeah.
And it's just, and a lot of stuff that I've seen in the past that has been coming out from Hasbro has been getting a lot of harsh criticism from people that normally would just be interested in Generations and Masterpiece. And you have to get back that audience that used to buy all the animated toys, that used to buy all the Transformer Prime toys, because they were there for that. Mm-hmm. But after Transformers Prime, when they, obviously there was a lot of other reasons because of quality changes. They switched countries and everything from manufacturing. But I think that when we went into Robots in Disguise and then we went into Cyberverse, we went into a different direction. You lost a lot of that audience and people started really just focusing on, I'm just going to collect Generations, or I'm just going to collect Masterpiece, or specific third-party product that interests my needs. They need to get that audience because, again, in the shrinking toy world, this is very important. This is very important for your future and your survival. Hasbro, and again, all these decisions are probably, knee-jerk reactions to a lot of things that are going on around them. You have to understand, Transformers isn't in a bubble. It's not the only sci-fi, mega brand that's releasing movies every single couple of years or months or whatever. Hasbro's looking at what's going on with Marvel. Hasbro's looking at what's going on with Star Wars, what's working for them, what's not working for them. And they know that the people who go see Star Wars movies, they go to see those Transformer movies, they go to see those Marvel movies. So they know that it's the same audience. And the same audience, that goes to see all those movies, they usually have the same taste. They have different expectations of different properties, obviously.
Right.
They have different expectations of what they want from Star Wars than what they do from Transformers. But in general, the one consensus is they like what they had from their childhood. And the more you shake that up, the more it becomes difficult for them to connect with that. And from a business standpoint, it's important. Granted, yes, like I said, there is the importance of originality. Something like Beast Wars, when it came around, people could argue, well, it wasn't like the past. Yes, but considering the state that Transformers was in 1994 and 1995, going into 96 with Beast Wars, where they gave you Generation 2. Generation 2 was hey, remember G1? Hey, remember all these toys? We're going to repaint them and give them to you and everything. And no one showed up. So Beast Wars was an answer to, Hasbro going, hey, we gave you G1. We gave you an Optimus Prime trio. Sure, we painted it black, but it was the original G1 toy. We gave you all these reissues of the aerial bots and the Constructicons and all this stuff. We gave you all of that. And you guys didn't show up. So we're going to do something different. So that was kind of, Beast Wars reasoning for that. But we don't have that problem. It's not Generation 2 anymore. We don't have those extremely low, almost canceling the line sales that is Generation 2. We have something that's, this is a mega brand that everyone is still, like you said, at its worst, it's still doing amazing. So those days are long over where Hasbro's looking at the Transformer brand and going like, man, Power Rangers is kicking our butt. That's quite the opposite now. Now it's Hasbro going, we own Power Rangers.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like it's a different world today. So now all you have to do really is just make the core amount of fans happy that are there for you, and they're doing that. And if this is any indication that they're really listening to what the fans want and stuff, it's going to be pretty sweet in the future. And this sounds extremely optimistic from me, who again has been burned in the past with these movies, but I really, really hope that this could lead to something great. And I mean, hey man, like if 10 years from now we'll be talking a Beast Wars movie or who knows what, I mean, we'll definitely see what happens. Any final thoughts?
Woo! I wasn't expecting any of this.
Yeah, me neither.
Excited.
Right on. Let us know what you guys think.